Hey everybody, Who's Your Jedi here with another review for you. This time I'm talking episode 9 of season 2 of The Legend of Korra called The Guide. Excuse me. Overall, I thought this was a pretty decent episode, but I wouldn't go and say that it was a terribly strong episode. It's an okay episode. It advances the plot forward reasonably well. We get some nice character moments. But overall, there's really nothing that particularly makes me sit up and say, wow. And let's just kind of start getting into it. Now, given the difficulties we see in this episode of someone who is not the Avatar trying to get into the spirit world, it really kind of makes you wonder if we're ever going to learn more about whatever Iroh's deal was when he went into the spirit world. I mean, how did he pull that off? I mean, that's something people have been wondering about for years. And I was kind of hoping that maybe we get some kind of a hint as to what happened there this episode, but we didn't. Now, granted, there's still plenty of episodes left in this season, but if we don't really get any kind of, at least a little nod to that, as I said, I'm really going to be very disappointed in that. But anyway, we do, however, learn that there are other ways into the spirit world than just obviously being the Avatar. I mean, I guess this isn't really new. This is kind of old news, as we know Iroh went into the spirit world, but it's only here where we start to really kind of get some clearer ideas about what might be involved. Okay, that's all well and good, and it certainly is interesting that one of the things that is mentioned in this episode is Guru Patik. Okay, we've not seen him mentioned in a long time, and in fact, he's still basically the only person who seems to ethnically be Indian that we have ever seen in the Avatar universe. Still don't know quite what to make of that. So, I think that we can take these as all little clues as to kind of how maybe people who are not the Avatar can get into the spirit world, but I don't know. It's just not really, to me, terribly satisfying in regards to that mystery. But one thing that we've learned is over the course of Korra is that we shouldn't take everything we learned during the time when the first show at face value. A lot of the situations that the characters encountered then, they were dealing with things they didn't really fully understand. Look at bloodbending. We thought that, okay, can only be done under the full moon. Well, Yakone proved, well, no, that's not true. And we saw that his brother could do it and that his father could do it. And we can only assume that that was just Hama not lying. It's simply she was explaining the truth as she knew it. And everybody seemed to apparently have made the mistake of taking what she had said at face value, as if it was some unquestionable universal truth, rather than just simply being the best knowledge of one person. Now, granted, this is obviously there's obviously still mysteries of bending that even Aang and even the Avatars and probably even people like the Fire Sages haven't quite figured out. It's a little bit like the Force. Jedi and Sith are always going out there trying to uncover the mysteries of the Force and whatnot. And I like that. I like how the world can still kind of keep us guessing. Things aren't always quite as written in stone as we might think they are. Now, one of the successful rules of any fantasy series is that if you do have magic, which is essentially what bending is in this universe, you do have to have some rules by which it operates. Otherwise, it's just whatever the author pulls out of their butt, and it just tends to come across as nonsense. And it's also pretty well established that audiences all over, doesn't matter really what genre, tend not to be very fond of retcons. So, it's a very delicate balancing act they're trying to do here on Korra is, mix things up, keep the ideas fresh, throw surprises at us, show us like, oh, well, what you think might not be exactly, 100% true. And I have to say, the show has done a pretty good job of doing that. They've kept They basically stuck to what we understand to be the rules, but they found ways to twist things to keep things interesting. Anyway, overall, though, if I have to say that this episode was really about any one character in particular, I'd have to say this was kind of a Tenzin episode. In this episode, we see Tenzin falling into a very classic trap, and one that's actually, surprising that someone of his spiritual wisdom would fall into. But it's also a very, very easy trap for anyone to fall into. And what I'm talking about here is simply wanting to believe something is true even in the face of a mountain of evidence, of letting your own desires, letting your own desire for something to be true blind you to the fact that it's not. Tenzin is so determined. He wants it so badly to be the one who can guide Korra into the spirit world, because admitting to himself that it's not true would be to say that he is a failure, that he is, in his own way, disappointing his father. He is not able to do this thing that he thought his father wanted him to do. But, it's even said by Kaya that it's not his destiny to guide Korra into the spirit world. In the same way that it wasn't Zhongzhang's destiny to be Aang's firebending master. Destiny is not something that is referenced often on this show. It's not like Star Wars that way. But it does seem to be a tangible force in the Avatar universe. And here, in this case, it is Jinora, of all people, that is the one to guide Korra into the spirit world. Now, I do like that they're kind of getting into, a little bit more of Tenzin's kids as actual characters rather than just, comic relief. And it really does make sense that they're going to focus in on Jinora first, because obviously she's the oldest. In fact, I'm not exactly 100% sure how old she's supposed to be in the show, but one has to imagine that she's probably not that much younger than Aang would have been when he started his adventures as the Avatar. And with that being the case, and her being Aang's granddaughter, well, it makes pretty good sense that she would be up for something like this. And of course, this whole problem gives us a chance to see a little bit more of Tenzin's doubts, his, at times very conflicted relationship with his dad, his, continued relationship with his siblings. It's all really interesting stuff, and it's all very well done stuff. You really have to give J.K. Simmons, the voice of Tenzin, a lot of credit. He really, really is selling it this episode. Now, he's a very, very talented guy, of course, and he's done great things in as J. Jonah Jameson in the Spider-Man movies, and of course as Emil Skoda on Law and Order. Very talented guy. Anyway, not really a huge amount to say about what's going on with this episode otherwise. Unalaq, we kind of get a little interesting characterization here, and that is that he quite clearly cares more about what's going on with these spiritual matters than he does about the welfare of his own children. Wow, what a jerk, huh? And frankly, I don't really have a huge amount to say about what's going on with Mako. I guess they're trying to make Mako out to be some sort of prototype Elliot Ness. And, the uncorruptible police officer. We see Varric trying to basically offer him a bribe and even threatening his loved ones. And Mako just tells him to F off, which, good for him. But this just leads us into this whole tedious thing of him being framed. And, again, Lin really should be at least a little suspicious of this. As I've said, she's gotten to see enough of who Mako is as a person, and seeing that he's somebody who is really willing to go and stand on the line and fight for what's right. I mean, there's really no way she should be buying into this. At least not hook, line, and sinker like what seems to be happening here. And I got no real opinion about Mako and Asami rekindling their romance. Yeah, I don't do the shipper thing, so like I said, I have no real opinion about that. But let me see here. yeah, that's really kind of all I have to say for this episode. Again, not a bad episode, just not an outstanding one. And with that, I'm going to call it here. As always, guys, please comment, rate, and subscribe. And of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Hoosier Jedi. Till next time, take care and have a good one.